So I saw the new I Know What You Did Last Summer yesterday. I was really excited for this movie yesterday. I love the original. I think it's a personally underrated slasher movie. I have a decent time with the second one. I still know what you did last summer. Like it's forgettable, but it's decent enough for me. And then the third movie, I think it's awful. The straight to DVD one. I always know what you did last summer. But I went in with a lot of excitement for this new one because I love the original a lot more than most people do. I thought this new one was terrible. This to me is one of the worst movies of this year. There are so many problems I have with this movie. Like this to me is just a bad movie. This is the second worst one in the franchise for me personally. The positives with this movie is that I thought it was cool. You see him using the kill using a spiel gun, which was it was interesting to see him use different weapon size to hook in this movie. So I like that aspect. And it was nice to see Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. in a movie again because I felt like I haven't seen those actors in movies much lately. So it was nice to see them again. That's about it. This movie is crap in my opinion. So let me get into all the problems I have with this movie. And let me say this: if you enjoyed or love this movie, awesome. I celebrate that fact. But there's a lot of issues I feel like with the writing in this movie. The first thing is that the dialogue is some of the worst dialogue I've seen in a movie this year. A great example of this: there's a scene where one of the two girls, part of the group, loses her husband, and it's the guy you see in the trailer that gets the spear gun shot through his chest. Like when her friends go to see her, she has a line goes like, "I guess I'm a widow now." And her friend goes like, her friend Ava goes like, "Well, you're a hot widow now." I'm just like dialogue like that is so like the dialogue like that to me is so bad. This movie, the dialogue is cringe in this movie. They don't feel like they'll come like the lines these people have in this movie, and I don't blame the cast in this movie. The lines they're given don't feel like this is what somebody would say in the real world. They feel like movie lines to me. It doesn't feel like this is how people talk. The dialogue is so cheesy and cringe. And look, the second movie has some bad dialogue in that movie too. But I felt like the dialogue in the second one was at least a little bit better than the dialogue in this. Like just so many times in this movie where the characters don't come off like realistic people to me. Like they don't come off like people. This is how people talk in the real world, and it's a lot of TikTok Generation Z like dialogue. Where I'm just like, maybe I'm getting older, but dialogue like this, I really cannot stand because it's cringe as hell, and I don't. I've never met people who talk like the way these people do in this movie. The tone in this movie didn't work out at all for me. There's a lot of cringe, cheesy humor that felt completely flat in this movie, and I feel like this movie cannot pick a tone. You go back to the original, it has a sober, serious tone. Like the first movie, I feel like has actually a really serious tone with moments of fun. The second movie, I feel like, is the one that goes full on camp and cheesy. But here's the thing with the second movie: it's not a very good movie. To me, it's decent. Like I said, it's a step down from the first one. But the second movie, when it comes to the camping cheesiness of that movie, at least it picks a freaking tone. That's the thing about those first two movies. They pick a tone. They know what movies are being. The second one, right away sets up it's going to be cheesy, campy, ridiculous. The first movie sets up this serious tone that it sticks to throughout the whole movie. Same with the second one being campy and cheesy. This movie is trying to be serious like the original, but at the same time trying to be campy and cheesy like the second one. And this movie just feels like it cannot decide a tone. And when it tries to be funny, it just falls so goddamn flat in this movie for me. It's like humor that I find cringe. It's humor that I don't find funny in this movie. There's times where they have a joke after like somebody just died. I'm just like, this feels so out of place. And just like, it feels tonal whiplash in this movie. So the humor doesn't work for it in this movie. The dialogue is some of the worst dialogue I've heard in the movie this year. The kills are pretty forgettable, I think, in this movie personally. Like this franchise isn't known to have like the big kills, but I prefer the kills in the first two movies more. The kills in this movie were just so forgettable to me. Like they don't. There's not a kill that stands out to me in this movie. They're serviceable, but they aren't memorable to me. There's not really great chase sequences either in this movie. Like one of my favorite chase sequences in the original movie is Selma Girl's character where she's running away from the killer. That's an entertaining chase sequence. Like the first movies actually have some good chase sequences in those movies. There's none of those in this movie for me. Like they try a chase sequence in one scene, and it just to me it wasn't very entertaining. The characters are either annoying or extremely flat and boring. And I don't blame the cast on this with the bad script they have, but they give this cast nothing with this core group of characters. Like, they aren't interesting to me. They have no personality to me. There's no development with any of these characters. And I don't even buy the chemistry between this group of friends at all in this movie compared to the original. And this movie just feels like it's just pretty much a remake like the original, but done worse. Where the original did everything better than this movie. So the characters I just think are just not interesting, dull, boring. And they have one character in this movie who's like has this horror podcast who's really into the stories of Southport when it comes to what happened in that town in the original movie. Her character just felt very cliche to me. I'm just like, I've seen this character in horror movies. He's part of a horror podcast, and they're like edgy and cool. And I'm like, to me, it's just tropey. It's a cliche I've seen in horror movies before. I didn't care for her character either, or find her character all that interesting. I thought the way the legacy characters was used in this movie was not like used all that well. Like Jennifer Love Hewitt, she's wasting this movie to me, and honestly, I kind of feel like she's thrown in a little bit. And her character to me doesn't get anything to really do in this movie. Now, the actor who plays Whitey, Freddie Prinze Jr., I do think he's used better in this movie because since he showed that he stayed in the town and he has a whole like relationship with Stevie as like this father figure towards her because he helped her out, which they don't really develop that I feel all that well. But at least plot wise, he's used better in this movie when it comes to him being part of the story than Jennifer Love Hewitt, who I feels like it's just kind of like her way of like the way she's put into this plot feels very contrived. Where it's like the whole podcast girl is hanging out with Ava, one of the main characters' friends, and that's where she gets the idea to go to Julie, Jennifer Love Hewitt's character. And I just felt like Jennifer Love Hewitt was just very forced into this movie where I was just like, there was no reason for a character to be here. And like I said, they don't give her any like badass moments at the end in the third act. She has no really cool action moments, so she just feels wasted in this movie. And her moment where they show in the trailer, she says to Ava, "Just tell me, what did you like?" And one question they asked, "What did you do last summer?" And to me, it came up even worse in the movie. She gets some bad dialogue, and that's one of the two dialogues. There's one dialogue at the end of the third act that's even worse, in my opinion. But to me, I didn't feel like her character was used all that well. She gets, I said, no badass moments. I just feel like she's character is kind of pointless in this movie. And they have this whole thing in this movie about how trauma affects people. And I'm going to get into a big spoiler with one of the things about this movie, and I'll tell you when I get to that part of it of the review. But they don't really develop that idea or dive enough into the whole idea of trauma affecting how trauma can change people, how it affects different people. They don't really get into that. Even the relationship between Ray and Steven in this movie, one of the characters, part of a core group of friends, I feel like that relationship could have been developed more because they have moments where it's trying to make you feel like he's like a father towards her because he helped her out, but I don't feel like they developed that at all that well. Like I never felt invested in that relationship. And the whole incident at the beginning was just sort of similar to the incident when it comes to it being a car related accident. I feel like it was done much better in that original movie. Like when you watch that original movie, they do a great job of having characters that are interesting, distinct personalities, and you care about them. But here's one of the things I love about the accident original. You do feel like it's their fault. And this new one, it's like they did a safe version of it, where it's just like, I only felt like it was one of their faults in this movie when it comes to this accident, this core group of friends, which is the hothead guy who is basically similar to the character of the the guy that was dating with Sam Michelle's character in the original movie. That actor is pretty much similar to his character, but it's not as interesting. And like he's the only character in this movie when it comes to part of the new group part of new characters. I feel like, oh yeah, out like to me it was his fault. Outside of that though, like I didn't feel like it was really the other characters' faults in this movie. Like when you watch the Winslow, you go like, yeah, they committed murder. Like you like the characters, but you also feel like they kind of deserve to have what they're coming to them because of what they did in that original movie. In this movie, it was like I didn't really feel that with these characters in this movie with the accent. I just felt like a very safe version of it, where I was like, yeah, it's this one person's fault, but I don't really feel like it's the other friend's fault what happened in this movie. So I feel like the Wizard movie did that much better than Incident, where it made you go like, yeah, you like these characters, but you also kind of feel like you do feel like it's their fault though. Like you feel like, yeah, they committed murder. So it had conflict there. This movie, I was like, I just didn't. I didn't feel like it was like I didn't buy into this group of friends being it was all their faults. The incident that happened in this movie, and also the editing in this movie is so bad. The transition between scenes in this movie feels so jarring, with the tone of whiplash and just how it transitions to the next scene doesn't feel like organic or natural. It just feels off and jarring to me. Like the editing in this movie, I think is really poor, really bad, and just did not work in this movie for me personally. And even the characters' reactions in this movie, I'm like, it doesn't come off genuine to me. It doesn't come off like this is how people would realistically act in the real world. So it just like it just, that didn't work for me too when it comes to the editing in this movie. When it comes to characters' reactions in this movie. So now I'm gonna get into the spoilers part of this movie. Oh, and another problem with this movie, before I get into spoilers, I have is that they have this thing where it's like they hint that Ray and Julie, because they were married at the end of the second movie, I remember, that they got divorced and they basically hate each other now, and they don't explain that at all in this movie why. You have a throwaway line about trauma, but they don't like. I'm not saying you need to just like give me a gigantic exposition dump, but you're telling me these two characters that love each other in the first two movies, and Wei, who literally saved her life twice and gave up the I think it was the wedding ring to her in the second movie and got a gun and got on a boat through a storm to save her in the second movie. He saved her twice. You're telling me that okay, well I'm gonna get into spoilers when it comes to the one of the Elvis movie, but when it comes to them not being together anymore, I just that did not make sense to me. Where these characters were in the last two movies, I know people are like, well, it's years later, but they don't explain it in this movie. Like right away, you have wait away has a line where it's like about Julie. I can't remember the line, but it like tells you right away they don't like each other. I'm like, where did this come from? It's also kind of tropey at this point. We have like the two characters that were together in the last movies, and in the Legacy sequel, they're not together anymore. Like it made sense in Scream with Dewey and Gale because of how opposite their personalities were, and they were off and on in those movies. It made sense. Like the main reason why it worked in Scream was because Gale and Dewey were opposite personality wise. Like I bought that, yeah, these two characters, they love each other, but I bought in the Scream Legacy sequels why they want to be together all the time anymore. In this movie, I do not buy. You don't explain to me why these two characters hate each other, and it's just right away. There's like tension and an awkwardness between them where they just hate each other, and I'm like, I get they're divorced, but you don't explain what happened. Why did they get divorced? Why do they hate each other so much? What specifically made like again? I know they're trying to talk about trauma in this movie with the idea that Julie's moved past it and Wei hasn't. But that is not an explanation or reason why all of a sudden they hate each other so much and they just can't seem to stand to be in the same room with each other and why they don't together anymore. Like to me, I'm not asking you to do a whole gigantic exposition dump in this movie, but to at least explain a little bit in this movie. So I had a problem with that element of the story. Was to me, they just expect you to be okay with it and they're just not gonna give any answers in this movie to that element, and to me that's just bad writing. You can explain a little bit. To me, it's just bad writing how that was handled in this movie. So let me get to the spoilers part of this movie. So if you haven't seen the new I Know What You Did This Summer, stop the video now. So when it comes to who done it, like who's the killers are, you have two killers in this movie. One's a big spoiler. When it comes to the first killer, the lead killer, this was just obvious to me. Like, it's Stevie, the friend that wasn't part of the group at the beginning, that was an outcast from the friends group. That when they do a year jump, it shows that she's back. She's really great friends with one of the main characters again. But They set up at the beginning that she's an outcast. She hasn't been. She doesn't hang out with these group of people anymore. That she was in rehab, and she's had some problems that Wade's talked about with that you see between him and her. Way she's had some problems in rehab. Like I said, she's an outcast. She has to talk to her friends. I'm like, it's so goddamn obvious she's the killer. It just, to me, I was like, oh my god. Just, this is one of the problems I have with slash movies right now, is that they're getting so extremely lazy with who the killers are. And to me, I felt Stevie was like obvious to me. Right away I was like, oh, she's a killer. She's the outcast of the group. She's the one when they go to the scene where she's when they go to Asinus scene when they're talking about they don't want to tell the cops. And she has the most to lose because she's had problems already in her past. It's like so freaking obvious, and the idea of wanting to kill her friends, I'm like, shocker! I saw that coming. You made it really obvious. And her motivation, I thought, which is very dumb too. Like her motivation is that you find out the guy they killed at the beginning of the movie, which they didn't. Let me say this: with the incident part of it, the guy that the whole incident where a friend died. Like I said, I didn't feel like it was all their faults. But her motivation is that she's killing her friends because that guy at the beginning was somebody she like was a friend, was somebody she loved, who was helping out on rehab. A person that we don't know in this movie and never met in this movie. And her motivation, that's the reason why she's wanting to kill her friends. I think it's just so stupid and lame. It's lazy. It just feels like as a motivation, it's not very interesting to me. I'm like, really? This is your motivation? That's another problem I have with slash movies now, is I feel like the motivations are getting really dumb in these slash movies now. It's like they're not even trying. Like, just come up with something interesting. So that, like, her motivation I thought was just dumb. Like, just, to me, it wasn't interesting. And also, like, her moment she goes, like, all crazy, like, like, it kind of, like, this movie definitely reminds me of Scream with the whole two killers, and then when you get the review at the end and you have the character going crazy and acting all psycho. I'm sorry, but, like, her acting in that movie just came off really stupid to me and not good. Like, I was like, this is not I'm not buying you as a psychopath in that moment. Like, it's way too over the top. I was like, this is way too over the top. So, her motivation and that review I thought was not handled well, and it was very obvious and predictable. And I just, you know, I also feel like when you think about her motivation, I was just like, to me, there's so many plot holes in this movie where it doesn't really make sense the more you think about it. When you find out that she's one of the two killers and her motivation, it just feels like there's a lot of holes you can poke in this movie when you think about it too much. So that I thought was bad. That didn't work for me. And then when we get into this spoiler part of this movie, when it comes to when it comes to three things, which is the second killer, about the original character being in this movie, and the mid credit scene. So one of the things I'm going to talk about is, before I get to the second kill, is that Selma Shogo is in this movie. She has a cameo in this movie, and I'm going to be honest, the placement of this scene I feel like doesn't make at all sense to me. You have one of the girls who has a dream. So Samuel Shogo comes back as a character in a dream sequence. Which, look, I love her character. It was nice to see her again. And obviously, the only way you're gonna bring her back is that she would be in a dream sequence. And she was at the premiere too, so that kind of gave a hint that maybe she was gonna have a cameo in this movie. But like, they do some DAs, and which looks good. I thought there's moments where you can tell, it's CGI DAs, but the problem I have with this dream sequence, besides like when she starts to, like, her face starts to turn all like creepy, which didn't really work for me, was the fact that you have this girl who's part of this new group of characters you're following in this movie that has this dream with some girl's character, and I just was like, why would she have a dream about some person she's never met? Like, to me, that moment would have worked better for me if it was like Julie's character having the dream, because she was Julie's best friend. Hell, even it makes more sense if White had a dream about her. because they were all part of the, they were all friends, part of that core four group in that original movie. It makes no sense to me why this girl. And look, I don't hate that. Like, I don't hate the scene when it comes to like Sam Go's performance. I think she gives a actually really good performance in this cameo. I do think it doesn't really feel exactly like how a character was in the original. She seems a little bit more meaner, but it's a dream sequence. But my problem with this idea is that it doesn't make sense why the new character would have a dream about Sam Go's character, the character she's never met and have only seen photos of. It would make more sense if Julie had that dream because she was Julie's best friend. So that just felt like the placement of it just didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So it's like I like her cameo, but at the same time, I felt like it doesn't make any sense whatsoever that this new character that doesn't know her at all, I've only seen pieces of this girl, like has a random dream about a original character. When I feel like it makes more sense Julie would have that dream. So that didn't really completely work for me. And then the second thing, when it comes to the second reveal of who the killer is, this is going to be the big controversial thing. I've seen some people like this because it takes a bold swing. And look, I don't mind if you want to take a bold swing in a franchise and do something really crazy and wild, as long as you own it. Like, make me buy into the fact that you're gonna own this. Make me feel like this is owned at that. Make me feel like this is developed. That you build this up. That this was something that by the end of the movie I go like, yeah, this makes total sense. It feels owned. It doesn't feel like it's just there for shock value. So the big controversial spot in this movie is that we find out Wei is the second killer. Which I have so many problems with this. The idea that maybe if you want to do, because I think this could have been interesting. Again, I don't have a problem with this idea in concept. It's the execution I have a problem with in this movie. Like, if you wanted to do a thing where like he just can't move past the trauma, and it's affected him so much that it made him like snap. And maybe if you develop the Steven and Wei relationship more in this movie, about like helping Helen and all that. But it just feels like it comes out of nowhere with Wei in this movie to me. It feels like they just did that just to shock people. It doesn't feel earned to me. It doesn't feel like you develop it. It doesn't feel like you build up to it. And it just makes no goddamn sense. The Wei character you saw in the first two movies, who literally like almost like sacrificed his life and it was saved Julie twice in those two movies, and was injured in the second one and would go to the island and save her despite him being injured. I'm just like, so all of a sudden, Wade just like, all of a sudden he's a killer. To me, you didn't own it. You didn't build up to it. You didn't develop it. You didn't feel like you got there organically. It would just make sense from where the character was in those first two movies to naturally progress to Wade being a killer. I was like, really? Look, I can admire taking a bold swing, but if you don't execute it well, it's just stupid in my opinion. And that's my problem with the Wade killer thing in this movie is that you didn't execute it well in my opinion. You didn't own it in this movie. It didn't feel like a natural progression of what you were doing in this movie or what you set up in the first two movies with who this character was. So look, I can understand like taking a bold swing, and maybe some people love the fact they just took a swing. Because I know like some fans like want to see Sidney go bad in the Scream movies, which I think would be stupid, unless you actually give me a goddamn good reason why that this person would all of a sudden go psycho. And this movie just didn't own that in my opinion. Also, like Way's motivation in this movie, I was just like, really? So his motivation is that he's all pissed because the town wants to forget what happened in the original movie to him and Julie. I'm like, that's his motivation. That's it. I'm like, this is just stupid. Like, I'm just like, this isn't interesting. This isn't compelling to me. I'm like, it's so freaking lame his motivation in this movie. I'm like, I don't buy. This is why he go like I don't buy it all. This is the reason why he goes psycho because the town like wants to cover up and forget about what happened in the original movie and what happened in Julie. I'm like, that's not enough reason to make me buy that. Wade just all of a sudden wants to become the Fist Man and gets the idea he wants to go around him and Stevie killing people. To me, you didn't own it. It doesn't feel like a natural progression, and his motivation I think is just very dumb and not interesting. And then you have this really moment where Julie comes he realizes that Wade's the other killer. And she has this other line that's really bad. Where she has that line in the wisdom where she goes like, "What are you waiting for?" Screaming out in the middle of the street, and there was no. Which I actually like that moment, and there was no. I know it's become a bit of a meme, but the way it's done in this movie just comes off so cringe and bad to me. Where she's like, Way had like is in front of her, he's gonna like kill her, and she's like, she says it like, Lily, like, what are you waiting for? And then she screams, "What are you waiting for?" And I'm just like, this is just bad, just a bad way to use that line. You get legacy sequels, I would do callback lines, and I'm kind of getting tired of it. But it's just like, look, I like that line in the wisdom. I actually think it makes sense in the wisdom where it happens tone wise in that movie and the placement of it. In this movie, it just comes off cringe and just really bad to me. Also, when it comes to how Southpaw looks in this movie, I prefer the way it looks in the original. In the original movie, Southpaw had a charm and it felt like it carried on to itself as setting with the dreary look. In this movie, it looks too bright and everything. And I understand that's part of the story with the whole idea that they're trying to cover up what happened in the original and forget about it. But I wasn't a fan of the way this movie looks so bright and everything. It lost that kind of dreary kind of look to how Southpaw and the charm of how it looks in the original. So that was something I wasn't really a fan of. But yeah, when it comes to Wade being a killer, I think this is just doesn't make sense. Kit, like, story wise, from who he was in the first two movies, it's not a natural progression. It doesn't feel earned. It feels like you built it up. It feels like you developed it. And also, it just to me it brings up this one moment in the movie that I just don't get. On the boat, when Wade's on there with Ava and her friend, and she's telling Stevie, "You didn't have to end this way." And she shoots Stevie. Why didn't they just team up in that moment and kill these two people? The last two girls, the two friends of this group. Like, to me, I'm just like, you could just kill them right there. I don't understand that. It's stupid when it comes to how the plot is in this movie. It's just so badly written and for tons of plot holes, things that don't make sense when you think about it at the end. And the motivations, like I said, are just lame, not interesting. Way being a killer to me, yeah, kudos. You took a bold risk. That's fine and everything, but you didn't execute it well, in my opinion. Like, I have no problem in a franchise if you take a swing, but execute it well. Make it feel like you own it. Make it feel like it makes sense from where the story's going when it comes to the progression of the character. And this to me did not make sense with the way thing. I think it could have been interesting. I think if you, to, this is what I think you could have done with no. I know what you did last time with Lego sequel. I think you could have made a movie just about Julian Way, and I think you could have dived more into the idea of trauma, and you could have made this thing where he felt abandoned by her, that he felt like, okay, he wasn't able to move past this stuff, and he felt abandoned by her, and I think if you developed the whole Stevie and Wade thing maybe a little bit more too, I think the idea could have been interesting, but the execution is just so bad with how terrible the script is and the motivations and not feeling owned in this movie. So, and then the last spoiler thing I'm going to talk about is a mid-credit scene. There is a mid-credit scene, which brings back the Brandy character from the second movie. Which, I don't feel a way about. Like, I didn't dislike her character in the second movie, but she also wasn't a memorable character to me. We have Julie coming to her, and it's basically setting up a sequel, which I just don't have any excitement for. Like, I just did not like this movie. It didn't do, like, her Julie trying to be like coming to her friend to see if she's okay. You see an X mark of it, and you see something on the back. I believe the piss between her and Brandy saying "I still know" or something like that. And I'm just like, I don't. You did not make me excited for a sequel for this, and also you didn't really give Julie any badass moments in this movie. So, and Brandon Brand character, like I said, I don't dislike her character. She's just not a memorable character to me, but it doesn't really make me excited. Also, you also have like they during the conversation between the two girls, which this is another ridiculous thing with this movie for me, is that the one girl gets shot off the boat. One of the two friends, Ava's friend, and the girl who lost her husband earlier. She gets shot off the boat and she washes up to sea, and somehow she's alive. I'm like, this is so ridiculous to me. And then they just went through hell, these two girls. And when they get out of the hospital, they're making jokes. I'm just like, again, the tone in this movie just feels so tonal whiplash, where it just feels like you can't pick a damn tone. If you want to be serious like The Original, that's fine. If you want to be campy, cheesy, completely fun, like campy, cheesy, over the top like the second movie, that's fine. But it feels like this movie can't decide which tone it wants to be from those first two movies. Like those first two movies, like I said, have a consistent tone in them. And just they're making jokes in this movie after they went through hell, and I'm just like, this feels so fucking out of place, and just not. Excuse my cursing. This feels so out of place and doesn't land for me in this movie. And you have a line where she references that Stevie's still alive. Is it like this real throwaway line where I'm like, I don't really care to see the Stevie character back. I didn't think of find out a very good, interesting character or a very interesting killer. So I just thought that was random. I also thought this was like a really stupid line too, where they one of the girls said, "Men need like we'd be all fine if men did therapy," and I'm like, what the hell is that line supposed to mean? It's a stupid ass line to me because one of your two kills in this movie was a female. So it's like that's a nitpick, but it's also one of those things where I'm like, that line is an example of just bad writing, too. I'm just like, what is that supposed to mean when you say men need therapy? One of the killers in this movie was a female. So it's just, yeah, I just did not like this movie. This movie is just, to me, like I said, one of the worst movies of the year. I think it's one of the worst Legacy sequels I've seen. It might be the worst Legacy sequel I've actually seen in a franchise I'm a fan of. Because it just, dialogue, the script, the characters, the editing, the tone, none of it worked in this movie for me. So I just, yeah, not a fan of this new I Know What You Did Last Summer. I don't have any desire or excitement to see a sequel, and I would just say, watch the original, and maybe the second one, because I think the second one you could have, it could, like, I consider the second one to be, like I said, decent, like a guilty pleasure type movie. But to me, the first one I love, and just I think this is to me a franchise where it's just like watch the first one, maybe the second movie, and that's it in my opinion personally. Like this to me, it's just a bad movie, and like I said, if you enjoyed or love this movie, all the power to you. But this to me is one of the worst movies of the year, in my opinion. Until next time, movie fans.